Hello, this is John O'Toole of BMC Software Customer Support. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to upgrade an existing BSA 851 environment to BSA 851 Patch 5, which was released by BMC Software in April 2015. We will often refer to this patch as simply Patch 5 during this video. This video will walk through the steps as listed in the Patch 5 upgrade documentation. This video is not intended to be a replacement for the official documentation, but rather something which complements it. The steps covered in this video apply to any BSA 85X environment, so the steps will be the same whether your existing environment is BSA 850, 851, or any of the 851 patches which preceded Patch 5. This video does not cover the steps required to upgrade a BSA 83X or earlier environment to Patch 5, as a few additional steps are required for such an upgrade. The Patch 5 upgrade documentation contains a different section specifically for upgrading BSA 83X or earlier environments. We will be using two different environments to demonstrate the upgrade steps. We will primarily be using a Red Hat Linux and Oracle environment, but we will also be using a Windows SQL Server environment to demonstrate the corresponding steps for those platforms. First, let's highlight the location of the documentation which we will be following during this upgrade. We start off at the main BSA 85 documentation page. From here, we drill into Release Notes and Notices, where we are presented with a list of all the service packs and patches for the BSA 85 release. We then click on the Patch 5 section and are taken to a page which describes the Patch 5 release. When we scroll down to the Upgrade section, we find a table which offers the user a choice of two paths depending on their current version of BSA. For this video, we are interested in upgrading an existing BSA 85X environment, so we will click on the appropriate link. We are now taken to a page which contains the detailed set of steps required to upgrade the environment from BSA 85X to 851 Patch 5. These are the steps we will be following in this video. Step 1 of the upgrade process describes how to gracefully shut down a BSA application server environment. The first part of the shutdown process is to log into the BSA Console and shut down each application server from there to ensure that any currently running jobs are handled gracefully. To do this, we select Configuration, Infrastructure Management, and expand the list of application servers. We can stop an individual application server by right-clicking and selecting to stop. When we do so, we are presented with a few options which control how currently running jobs are to be handled. We then repeat this for each application server in the environment. Note that we will not be able to stop the application server to which we are currently connected, as signified by this icon. Once all other application servers have been stopped, we can exit the BSA GUI. The second part of the BSA application server shutdown process is to stop the BSA services on each of the application server hosts in the environment. These services include the application server service, the process spawner service, and potentially a PXE server service. If there is a BladeLogic RACD agent installed on the AppServer, the RACD agent service does not need to be shut down prior to upgrading the AppServer, but doing so is also acceptable. Here we will demonstrate shutting down the AppServer and process spawner services on our Red Hat application server. Starting with the process spawner. And then moving on to the AppServer service. This server does not have a BL PXE server installed, so we are done. The corresponding step on a Windows BSA application server involves stopping the following services: the BladeLogic application server service, the BladeLogic process spawner service, if installed, the BladeLogic PXE server service, And if there is a BSA Console installed in the application server, also shut down the BSA Console Upgrader service. In a multi-app server environment, these services must be stopped on each application server host before moving on to the upgrade step. This is true for Linux, Unix, and Windows environments, as we do not want open database connections to interfere with the upgrade. The next step in the Patch 5 upgrade process, like with any BSA upgrade, is to back up the environment before we begin upgrading any components. The main components to back up are the BSA Blade Logic database. This will require the assistance of the site DBA, the Application Server Installation Directory, the PXE Installation Directory, and the FileServer storage location. Most customers will have their own best practices around performing backups, depending on their backup tools, operating systems, storage tools, and database platforms. The next step in the Patch 5 upgrade process is to upgrade the application server by running the AppServer installer as described in Step 3 of the upgrade documentation. On Linux or Unix, this involves logging into the AppServer as root and running the installer sh script. On Windows, it involves running the installer executable as an admin user. In a multi-app server environment, we will choose just one of the app servers to upgrade initially and upgrade the rest later in the process after we have ensured that everything has gone well with the first app server and the database. Here in this video, we will demonstrate running the installer on Red Hat Linux to upgrade an 851 app server to 851 Patch 5. We will now step through applying Patch 5 to my existing BSA 851 app server on Red Hat Linux. So we've downloaded this installer. Going to ensure that we have execute permissions. Going to make sure I'm root. Also going to check the NSH version prior to the upgrade. Now we kick off the installer. It detects the previous version. We go with the default language of English. We accept the licensing agreement. Here the installer is telling us that it has found 3 BSA related components, the RCD agent, the application server, and the network shell. So we go ahead and we upgrade all 3. This is just a final warning to ensure you've got a backup taken, as we previously discussed. We're going to accept the defaults. The installer takes care of stopping and starting the RCD agent as needed. As previously discussed, we have already stopped the application server and the process spawner on this server. This section of the installer is upgrading the AppServer deployments, so it's going to loop through the various job and config AppServer instances on this box and upgrade them to Patch 5. We can see here that the deployments upgraded completed successfully. And that completes the upgrade. Now we'll check the NSH version again. And we see that the build number has now been updated. To upgrade a Windows application server to Patch 5, the corresponding step is to launch the Windows AppServer Installer EXE as an administrator. As was the case on Linux, the installer will detect the existing install and offer to upgrade it to Patch 5. We won't run through the full Windows AppServer upgrade here, but once you select to upgrade and press Next, the installer runs through to completion without any further user interaction being required. Now that the application server upgrade is completed, The next step in the process is to upgrade the BSA database to patch 5 so that it matches the level of the app server. To do this, we need to download and extract the patch 5 SQL script zip file and run the master SQL script using either SQL Plus for Oracle environments or SQL CMD for SQL Server environments. Step 4 of the documentation here describes in detail the zip file to be downloaded, as well as the commands we'll be using to upgrade the database. Now, we will run through how to complete the database portion of the patch 5 upgrade by following the detailed instructions in step 4 of the upgrade doc. First, we'll extract the patch 5 SQL upgrade script zip file, which we previously downloaded to our Linux Oracle environment. The extraction of the zip file and execution of the SQL scripts may be performed from any server in the environment which has SQL Plus installed and which can connect to the BSA database. This might be your BSA app server, your database server, or a dedicated database client. Now that we have extracted our SQL Server zip file, we can see that it has created an 851 directory. From here we see a remediation directory. And under here we see directories for Oracle and SQL Server. In this case, we're interested in the Oracle directory. Under the Oracle directory, we see the install hotfix update Oracle script as documented here. So from this location, we will invoke a SQL Plus prompt as the BSA database user. From this SQL Plus prompt, we will now execute the script again as described here. In this case, the BSA environment which was upgraded was a small one, and the database upgrade step completed in under a minute. It is important to note that this step may take considerably longer for larger BSA environments. If any errors are encountered during the database upgrade step, please contact BMC Software Support for assistance and include the reference log file. The corresponding step to apply patch 5 to a SQL Server database involves running a single batch file. Again, as you can see here, we have extracted the patch 5 SQL update zip file and have navigated to the remediation SQL Server directory. As detailed in the doc, the batch file is called with 4 parameters: the name of the DB server host, the database name, the username, and the password. When executed, the batch file connects to the specified database to upgrade it from 85x to patch 5. As was the case with the Oracle upgrade, a log file is produced with full log output, including any errors. If errors are encountered, please contact BMC customer support and include this log file for analysis. Like Oracle environments, the runtime of the database upgrade step will vary depending on the database size. Now that the application server and database upgrades have been completed, we move on to step 5, which consists of running the Postmigration utility to take care of some remaining upgrade tasks. The Postmigration utility exists in the NSH bin directory. On Linux or Unix, it is a shell script and does not have a file extension. On Windows, it will have a .e extension. So we begin by making sure we're in the NSH bin directory and that we're logged in as root. Then we test that the utility exists as expected. And then we execute. If no errors are encountered by the utility, we can proceed to the next step. If any errors are displayed, we can check the post-migration log, which is present in the BR directory. If an error is encountered in the post-migration step, please contact support and include the post-migration log file. As previously mentioned, on Windows application servers, the post-migration utility is a Windows exe file which exists in the NSH bin directory. It should be run from a command line launched as administrator. It is important to note that in multi-app server environments, the post-migration utility only needs to be executed once and does not need to be re-executed on each app server as it is upgraded. Next, we move on to step 6, which covers upgrading the RSCD agent if one exists on your application server. Note that up to and including BSA 8.5, having an RSCD agent on your application server was not a requirement, so if you do not have one installed, this step may be skipped. Likewise, as mentioned here in the upgrade doc, if your application server is Linux or Unix, the AppServer upgrade would have taken care of any agent present on the same server and upgraded it to patch 5 while upgrading the app server. On Windows application servers, though, the RSCD agent requires a separate RSCD agent installer to be executed. To upgrade the RSCD agent on a Windows application server, simply download the patch 5 RSCD agent installer, log in as an admin user, right-click the installer MSI file, and select to install. Here we see that the previous version of the agent was correctly detected and will be upgraded. From here, the installer will run through to completion without any user input being required. Step 7 in the Patch 5 upgrade process describes how to upgrade the BSA FileServer Agent to match the version of the application server. If the BSA FileServer is installed on the same server as the application server which was previously upgraded, it will have been upgraded already by either Step 3 for Unix or Linux or Step 6 for Windows. If the file server is installed on a different server from the application server, the RSCD agent on the file server will need to be upgraded separately using the Patch 5 RSCD agent installer. The previous step already demonstrated how to manually upgrade a Windows agent to Patch 5. We will now demonstrate how to upgrade the RSCD agent on a Linux Unix server. The process to upgrade the agent on a file server is the same as any other BSA agent. To upgrade the RSCD agent on our Linux file server to Patch 5, we will be following the steps detailed here in Step 7 of the Patch 5 upgrade doc. The process consists of placing the Patch 5 RSCD installer appropriate for your platform on the server and executing it as root. The install process will take care of stopping and starting the agent as needed. We select English for the language in this case. The previous version is detected and upgraded. Just accept the license agreement. Here it has detected that the RSCD agent and only the RSCD agent is installed here and will be upgraded. We accept the defaults. That completes the upgrade. The agent installer automatically restarts the agent when the upgrade completes. Note, some Linux or Unix file server agents may have been installed via the -local option to allow for two agents to run simultaneously on the same server. Such agents need to be upgraded with a special procedure. This is outside the scope of this video, but if your FileServer agent has been installed using the -local option, please see the Upgrading Components using the local option on Unix or Linux section of the documentation as shown here. Now that the BSA application server, the database, and the FileServer agent have all been upgraded to patch 5, it's time to restart the application server as described in step 8. On Windows, this involves restarting the BladeLogic application server and the BladeLogic process spawner services. On Linux and Unix, it requires restarting the same two services via the command line as follows. After restarting an application server for the first time following an upgrade, it is a good idea to check the AppServer log to confirm it has restarted cleanly. In this case, the AppServer log file is called appserver.log, but that will vary between environments depending on the name you have assigned to your AppServer deployments. If multiple AppServer deployments exist on a host, there will be a separate log file for each. When looking through the log file, focus on the events with a timestamp after the upgrade. Keep an eye out for any stack traces. We will also want to make sure we see this section here listing the AppServer build, and also this section here which confirms the AppServer is ready and accepting requests. Step 9 of the Patch 5 upgrade process is to upgrade the PXE server if your environment is used for PXE-based provisioning. Demoing this step is outside the scope of this video, but full instructions on this step are available by drilling into the appropriate link in Step 9. Step 10 of the Patch 5 upgrade process covers upgrading the BSA Console to match the version of the application server. In this video, we will demonstrate the BSA Console upgrade on Windows, but the same steps apply to Linux and Unix. Simply download and run the appropriate BSA Console installer for your console's platform. Now we will demonstrate how to run the Patch 5 BSA Console installer to upgrade this Windows client. We right-click the install and run as administrator. We will pause this recording during any portions of the upgrade which take more than a few seconds to complete. This message tells us that the client is build 851.304 and that to ensure that our app server is also at that level, which we have already taken care of. Here we see that the earlier version of the client has been detected, so we now have the choice to upgrade this version or to install a new instance at the later version in parallel. We will select to upgrade our existing version. Here we can see that the upgrade is completed successfully, and we're also provided with a log file if needed. Now that the console has been upgraded to patch 5, We can use it to log in and test our upgraded application server. Once we are logged in, we can navigate to the Configuration, Infrastructure Management area to verify that our upgraded application server is responding and that the version has been updated as expected. We can verify the version of the application servers are correct by drilling in and verifying the BL Manager version. We can verify the version of the console is correct by using the Help About BMC Server Automation Console menu item. This might now be a good time to do some light testing, such as live browsing a server and running a small test job. Step 11. If the BSA environment is a multi-application server environment, meaning there are application servers running on additional hosts, we can now turn to upgrading these additional application servers. This involves repeating steps 3, 6, and 8 on the other AppServer hosts. These steps cover upgrading the application server, upgrading the RSCD agent on the application server if one exists, and restarting the upgraded application server. Note that we do not need to repeat the steps for upgrading the BSA database or Postmigration utility, as these steps need only be performed once. Once additional application servers have been upgraded and restarted, we can again use the BSA Console to verify they are online and the BL Manager version is as expected. This completes the upgrade of the core BSA environment from 8.5.1 to 8.5.1 patch 5. We have covered the upgrading of the application server, the database, the FileServer RSCD agent, the console, and any RSCD agents which might be present on the application server. All that remains now is to upgrade the RSCD agents on the target servers. This step is usually completed in a phased approach, days, weeks, or months after the core environment has been upgraded. Upgrading the target servers is outside the scope of this video, but quite a few options exist, including using BSA itself to silently upgrade the agents using either a file deploy job or the unified agent installer job. Follow the links under step 12 for more detailed information on this process. See also step 13 for information on upgrading the config and model objects after the agents have been upgraded. Thank you for watching this video, which demonstrated the upgrade of an 8.5.1 BSA environment to 8.5.1 patch 5. Make sure to follow the patch 5 upgrade documentation as highlighted at the beginning of this video. If you find any issues in the documentation, please let us know via the comments section. If you have any questions about any of these upgrade steps or encounter any issues during the upgrade process, please contact us at BMC Software Customer Support.